Ladies and gentlemen, critter enthusiasts and eco enthusiasts, welcome to another thrilling episode of Eric Likes Animals. I'm, of course, your ever excited host, Eric Mahan, and today we're diving into the wild world of environmental news and the creatures that make our planet their home. Whether you're a first time explorer or a seasoned listener, I'm thrilled to have you along for the journey. So, as always, first up on our journey, why don't we get started with some environmental news? This was first up and reported by Live Science, but it's kind of being reported everywhere right now, and that is the cicada double brood event. What to expect when trillions of bugs emerge in the eastern United States. It is with great anticipation that I bring to your attention a truly remarkable natural phenomenon unfolding in the United States. After a staggering 221 years, we are on the brink of witnessing an extraordinary event that simultaneously emerges of two massive broods of periodical cicadas. This unprecedented occurrence will feature the convergence of Brood 13 and Brood 19, two of the largest cicada broods known to exist. Emerging in masses after living subterranean for about 17 and 13 years, these cicadas are poised to captivate us with their vibrating mating rituals, which I personally think kind of sound like an alien coming to abduct us away versus the annual cicada that many of you may know, which is kind of just that really loud chirping sound we hear in the heat of the summer. Now, since these are two different species than the normal annual cicada, that is why they sound so different. A lot of people also kind of think that they sound like a metal engine running. Now, periodical cicadas exclusive to eastern North America are renowned for their synchronized emergence in vast numbers, following a prolonged juvenile phase underground. These insects, known as nymphs, sustain themselves by feeding on the tree root sap. Upon reaching adulthood, they burst forth to engage in a huge, frenzied mating spectacular that spans several weeks. The last occurrence of such a double cicada brood extravaganza dates back to all the way of 1803 during the presidency of Thomas Jefferson. Remarkably, we will not bear witness to this spectacular event again until the year 2245. While the insects world boasts over 3,000 cicada species, only seven belong to the genus Magicicada, known as periodical cicadas. Among these, three adhere to a 17-year life cycle, while four adhere to a 13-year cycle, notably distinct from their annual counterparts, which mature annually and are distributed globally. Periodical cicadas exhibit significantly longer life cycles, adding to the allure of this extraordinary natural event. As the cicadas emerge from their subterranean sanctuary, they face a perilous journey ahead. Within a mere 2 to 6 weeks from their grand emergence, the majority will succumb to the cycle of life, with many perishing amidst the rush to simply just get to the surface. In the initial phase, the arboreal landscape will be abuzz with activity as most cicadas ascend to the lofty heights of trees within 3 weeks. By the month's end, a multitude of female cicadas will commence their crucial task of laying eggs in the canopy. However, their emergence is not without its danger. Predators lurk in the shadows, eagerly awaiting their opportunity to feast on these unsuspecting insects. Furthermore, the chaotic rush of fellow cicadas can prove fatal, especially with their exoskeletons still tender. Yet, amidst the perils, a resilient few will prevail, ascending to the safety of the canopy to fulfill their destiny of mating and perpetuating their species. And soon afterwards, they die once their life mission is complete. These billions upon billions of insects are vital to the ecosystem, with many insect loving animals snacking upon them in huge feasts. Even animals you may not think of, like squirrels and copperhead snakes, will join in the feast of these highly nutritious and full of protein snacks. However, like a Golden Corral buffet, there is way more food than any one creature could ever eat, and many end up just dying and being absorbed back into the forest floor, giving back nutrients to the plants that they feasted on for years. Next up, reported by The Guardian, strobe lights and blackouts. Australian power companies seek to reduce bat shockings. Now, I have actually heard about this issue before. Now, this article may date itself all the way back to 2020 at the start of this issue, when we first heard of those huge Australian wildfires, which we all thought would be the biggest disaster news of 2020. Boy, were we wrong. But like COVID, these wildfires' effects have not stopped. Huge amounts of wildlife are still displaced from those fires, waiting for nature to, sorry, this is kind of corny, but true, rise like the phoenix from the ashes. Many of these animals, like fruit bats, now live much closer to urban development than they would ever want to if they had any other choice. And with this comes all the issues of living near humans, one of which is, of course, power lines, which this article goes into talk about. For in recent times, a troubling trend has emerged along Australia's east coast, an increase in fruit bat fatalities due to electrocution while foraging for subsistence. These majestic creatures, also known as flying foxes, often alight upon power lines for rest, only to inevitably make contact with a second line, resulting in tragic consequences. Victoria, in particular, has witnessed a surge in such incidences, marking one of the most severe periods of back electrocutions in decades. City Power and Power Corps, responsible for supplying electricity to Melbourne and regional Victoria, have been grappling with their repercussions, including frequent power outages stemming from these unfortunate encounters. To mitigate this alarming trend, the company has taken proactive measures by implementing various warning mechanisms. These include the installation of strobe lights in select regional areas, serving as visual cues to alert the bats of the looming danger posed by power lines during their nocturnal foraging expeditions. The power supplier has reported success in curbing electrocutions through the implementation of several key measures. Among these are the installation of innovative insulator guards and visual warning devices affixed to power poles. Notably, a pulsating strobe light has been strategically placed in an orchard near Tatora, situated within Victoria's Goulburn Valley region, serving as a deterrent to bats. While the issue of increasing bat populations of subsequent electrocutions has primarily been observed in Victoria, similar concerns have surfaced in Melbourne and beyond. Meanwhile, in South Australia, the escalating presence of these mammals, driven southward by climate change induced food storages, has promoted action from SA Power Networks in affected areas. The company has introduced animal guards disc like plastic devices attached to poles to mitigate the risk of bat related incidences. The flight of flying foxes among the East Coast, spanning from Queensland through North South Wales to Victoria, has drawn attention to the significant challenges facing these iconic creatures. According to insights shared with The Guardian Australia, the observed decline in habitat and food sources had a profound impact, resulting in a distressing number of flying foxes being affected. This dire situation has led to a concerning rise in orphan pups left vulnerable after their mother's milk has diminished. Wildlife Victoria's data from the last year underscores the severity of this issue, revealing a staggering 148% surge in bat rescues compared to the previous years, with flying foxes accounting for half of the electrocution cases. Embracing visual aids as a preventative measure, Wildlife Victoria endorses the effectiveness of measures like those implemented by City Power and Power Corps, emphasizing the crucial role of such interventions in averting bat-related accidents. The sentiment is echoed by Melinda Brennan, president of the Bat Conservation and Rescue Queensland, who notes a concerning expansion of bat population into new territories indicated of the over-ranching habitats loss exacerbated by widespread land clearing. In response to these pressing concerns, efforts are underway to collaborate with energy companies in Queensland to emulate the success of strategies pioneered by City Power and Power Corps. A spokesperson from City Power and Power Corps emphasizes the ongoing commitment to wildlife protection, citing the development of specialized devices such as insulated sleeves on power lines to enhance bat visibility and reduce the risk of electrocutions. The company remains vigilant in monitoring bat activity across their networks, collaborating closely with local councils and customers to continually refine wildlife safeguarding measures. Amidst these endeavors, the Victoria Energy Department issues a cautionary advisory against handling electrocuted bats, highlighting the potential health risks associated with disease such as Australian bat virus and Hendra virus, carried by a small percentage of these animals. Then finally, reported by MangaBeat, despite drought, Amazon deforestation alerts hit 5-year low. So this one was a short one, but the news was so good I had to share it. And it goes, the Brazilian Amazon has witnessed a remarkable decline in deforestation, with April registering a notable 47% decrease compared to the previous year, marking the lowest level observed in 5 years. This downward trend has persisted over the past 12 months, accumulating to a substantial 51% reduction in forest loss. This significant achievement comes amidst challenging conditions, including a severe drought affecting the region, resulting in record fires, particularly in the state of Roraima. Despite these adversities, the Brazilian government, under the leadership of President I'm sorry, I'm going to mess it up, Luiz Salvia, since January 2023, has implemented a series of effective measures to combat deforestation. The president's administration has prioritized environmental conservation by reinstating crucial conservation programs, bolstering the capabilities of environmental agencies, and advocating for indigenous rights. Furthermore, the government has actively engaged with the international community to garner support for forest protection efforts. Economic incentives for forest preservation has been reintroduced alongside innovative initiatives such as the proposed Alliance of Tropical Rainforest Nations amid at securing international funding for conservation and restoration efforts. This concentrated approach has yielded tangible results as evidenced by the consistent decline in deforestation rates for the 13th consecutive month. Despite the challenges posed by climate related phenomena like drought and wildfires, Brazil's commitment to preserving its invaluable natural heritage remains steadfast, paving the way for a more sustainable future for the Amazon and its inhabitants. The Amazon, of course, still has a long way to go to truly come back, and deforestation is still happening, but a win is a win, so let's take it. And that's it for your environmental news. So, for this episode's Creature Feature, since it's kind of June time now, and we're starting to get into late spring, early summertime in North America, an amazing thing has been happening over the last couple months, and it will continue for a couple more, and that is amphibian springtime migration. Many of these amphibians are impossible to find the rest of the year, living maybe underground by itself in the middle of nowhere. However, once a year after the cold of winter starts to loosen its grip and the spring rains come, billions upon billions of amphibians move at night to get to their breeding pools to pass along their genetics to a new generation. And it's not just one species at these pools, sometimes it could be 10 different species with hundreds upon thousands of that species in these pools breeding. And with so many to choose from, I decided to go with one that is a fairly unique and maybe one you wouldn't think of going to these breeding pools because of their location, because spoiler alert, they're in the Sonoran Desert, and that is the Sonoran Desert toad, or Colorado River toad, and it survives and passes along its genes still when the spring rains come. Now, the Colorado River toad, also known as the Sonoran Desert toad, thrives in diverse environmental ranging from deserts and semi-arid areas to arid grasslands and woodlands in the southwestern North America. This semi-aquatic amphibian typically resides near large streams and can be often found in proximity to springs, temporary rain pools, canals, and irrigation ditches. During the hot summer months, the toads seek refuge in their burrows, either self-dug or normally taken by a neighbor rodent, for instance, where it will remain cool and protected from the harsh conditions outside in the Sonoran deserts. Now, the Colorado River toad is the largest native toad in the United States and measures between 4 to 7.4 inches or about 11 to 18.7 centimeters in length. And they will typically weigh about 10.6 ounces or 300 grams. In the wild, they are known to live 10 years, but in zoological care, they have been known to live up to 20. The Colorado River toad is notable for its substantial size and distinctive coloration. Its dorsal side ranges from greenish gray to dark brown, often adorned with small brownish or orange spots, while its ventral side is cream colored. Unlike what most people think about toads, the river toad actually has relatively smooth skin, though there are some warts present. Key identifying features include distinct cranial crest curves around each eye, which are prominent elongated parotoid glands located on each side of the back of their head, on its hind legs, and a characteristic white bump on each side of its mouth. Parotoid glands, by the way, is an external gland found on the back of the necks, normally found on frogs, salamanders, and of course, toads. It's these big bumps, normally behind the eyes of these animals, however, and some small ones all over their body that is filled with a number of different toxins depending on the species. For the Colorado River toad, it secretes a milky white toxin that is a form of a powerful hallucinogenic toxin that, if ingested by another animal, can cause extreme nausea and even death. Now, this would normally keep most animals forever going near this creature, but not us dumb humans. Oh no. For you see, some knucklehead went out and licked one and told other people that this toad got him high. So other people started going out and started trying to lick these animals as well. Yep, something you use to keep other animals from eating you had the opposite effect on humans, apparently. It's actually gotten so bad that the United States Fish and Wildlife, along with other environmental agencies, have to constantly put out PSAs yearly telling people to please stop licking toads. First, it's extremely bad for the toad because it can cause infections and other issues. After all, the Colorado River toad is an amphibian, and many amphibians use their skin like lungs. So, licking these highly sensitive skin areas could spread disease and bacteria that will end up killing the toad. Yes, even though human mouths do get brushed, are still extremely gross. Secondly, the chance of getting high is extremely slim. You are more likely to get extremely sick, nothing happening, and of course, there's still a very good chance you will die. So, please stop licking the toads. Moving on. The Colorado River toad is primarily nocturnal, remaining underground during the heat of the day. Its active is stimulated by rainfall, although it is not solely dependent on rainfall for breeding. The toad is most active from May to July, spending the winter months in burrows beneath the ground. When they do come out, their main predator that seem to have been able to handle the river toad's toxins are hawks, owls, and some species of snakes. However, I think owls are the more likely than hawks since they are normally awake at night. They are most likely trying to find food. After all, they are carnivorous, and if it will fit in their mouth, the Sonoran desert toad will normally eat it. They can feed on spiders, insects, lizards, mice, snails, centipedes, and other amphibians in the wild. A fun fact about these toads, and frogs by the way, is since many don't have teeth, they will have to find another way to swallow huge prey items, sometimes whole. Now, they go about swallowing these things by grabbing a hold of them and using their front legs to push the food down their throat, but that method can only get you so far. So, to get the food the rest of the way down, you may notice, as one does staring at a toad as it eats, that it squints a lot. And that's because they will squint and bring their eyes into their skulls and use the backs of their eyes to push the food down the rest of the way. Now, the Colorado River toad emerges with the onset of the summer showers, breeding in temporary pools formed by the rains. Mating occurs from May to July, as I said before, with males producing a relatively weak call, resembling a ferryboat whistle to attract females. However, what the male do have is they develop what are called nuptial pads, which basically give their front feet the ability to grip onto females much better, since during the breeding seasons events, these solitary creatures will all come together. And with so many trying to find mates, it can get a little rough, with many trying to push others off of the larger females' backs, sort of a mosh pit of toads. Now, during this period, females lay strands of black eggs, which each strand containing up to 8,000 eggs. As she lays the eggs, the male will then release his sperm, fertilizing the eggs as they are laid into the body of water. Now, these eggs hatch within 2 to 12 days, and the larvae undergo metamorphosis about 6 to 10 weeks. Now, many things like dragonfly nymphs can still eat tadpoles, but the main reason so many amphibians choose to lay their eggs in temporary pools is so fish and other creatures found in more permanent bodies of water won't eat their eggs, since they are mostly there to lay their eggs and move on. Following the breeding season, the adult toad retreats to its burrow, only coming out for food during good conditions at night until winter. Then they will go into something called brumation, a sort of hibernation but more herp based, with still some activity levels through this time. As for the young toads, they still need to metamorphosize before the colds of winter come on, and also before the pools dry up, normally in the middle of summer. So they need to start metamorphosizing, getting out of that water, and start putting on weight since, like I said, winter is right around the corner. As for the conservation status of the Colorado River toad, the IUCN Red List has them listed as least concern, population trend, stable. Luckily, these toads can live in ditches and near man made water sources. However, due to global climate change and with the drastic loss of water in the Southwest, this can drastically change the conditions of what is going on for the Colorado River toad. So, the persistent overuse of water supplies from the Colorado River in recent decades has significantly depleted large storage reservoirs and led to mandatory cutbacks in water use. The river is crucial for over 40 million people and more than 2 million hectares of cropland. Currently, the Colorado River is overconsumed, with users drawing approximately 20% more water than this river provides. That's right. This stemmed from the fact that way back then, when all the states signed the water agreement on how much water each state could take from the river, the main source of water for these huge areas of lands and humans and nature, someone screwed up and didn't pay attention in math class. And the agreement was to use up more water than the river could give in a year. Nowadays, no one state wants to be the one to give up any of those water rights since each is so desperate for water. So we keep overtaking, leaving us with less and less, using up more water and using up all the water reservoirs, aka underground water, making the land areas drier and drier. The lower basin, which includes Arizona, Nevada, California, and Mexico, uses more water for agriculture compared to the upper basin. In the lower basin, 54% of the water is allocated for crops and livestock, while the upper basin uses 48% of its water for the same purpose. This imbalance has exacerbated the strain on the river's resources, prompting urgent measures to ensure sustainable water management for the future. Many crops grown in these areas are not suitable to be grown in normal conditions found here, and it has been human manipulation of the water that provides things like alfalfa, an extremely thirsty crop that should not grow in this region, the ability to. Also, many crops grown in this area are sometimes sent to many global companies. So, some of these companies will purchase land with these water rights, and it is easier for them to grow these crops like alfalfa in this drought area with water rights and ship these crops out of the US. Of course, certain unnatural green landscapes of like golf courses in the desert also haven't helped things, thus requiring a lot more water to make these look nice. In fact, back in the day, doctors would suggest to patients that suffer from major allergies in New York that they should move to certain areas of the country, for example, Arizona, due to certain trees not living there, being that it's a desert. But now, because of all these people moving to the area and bringing in these trees and grasses that shouldn't grow there and then watering their lawns, all of a sudden now there are these pollen spikes in these regions with certain trees that should have never been there all in the first place. All of which means less water in the river and the sky, meaning the areas that river toads can live in shrinks and their breeding pools they rely on come less often, all due to these drier conditions. So, what can we do? Big one is to ask for the revamp of the water regulations in those regions. There is a lot of grass, trees, and wasteful water usage in the regions that are just not useful or good for the environment. You at home can do things outside the region. Even if you don't live in Arizona or New Mexico or across the world, you can try and use less water. Water molecules travel all around the world. Just because you don't live in a region that has a rain shortage doesn't mean you should overuse water just because it might not affect you. These are all things that can affect the world. There are some amazing water repurposing and rain catching devices that do things like take water from your sink that goes down the drain and uses it to so-called gray water flush your toilet. Or it catches the rainwater and uses it for things like your toilet or your hose hookups, meaning you are still using water, but it's not a once and done thing. You can use certain water multiple times for different purposes throughout your house. But of course, if you don't have that money to spend, just be mindful on how much water you are using to wash dishes, take showers, or even water your garden. Using natives found in your area and getting away from plain grassy lawns will mean you can just rely on the water that falls naturally from the sky. And bonus, you will be helping many birds, bugs, and herps, and of course, even mammals, providing them with a more natural home in your own backyard. And who knows, one of those creatures may even be that amazing Colorado river toad. And that's the show. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the Sonoran Desert Toad, aka the Colorado River Toad. As always, check me out on Facebook, X, aka Twitter, TikTok, and if you email me, you can always email me at ericlikesanimals@gmail.com. Links are down in the footer. And of course, once again, thank you for joining me on another wild adventure with Eric Likes Animals. This is Eric signing off, reminding you that every creature has a story, and sometimes the best stories have fur, feathers, or scales. See you all next time.